is going to be a video that is a bit different, but it's only because I have, and it's not going to be scripted. See, I've been hearing about, I typically try to stay out of these types of things, but I've been trying to, with my healing from my PTSD and everything like that, to be able to be a little bit more controversial. This is going to be quite movie, in a sense. However, some of the YouTubers that I watch, or have continued to watch, like on occasion, for whatever casual nature, have been talking about it. I saw it today. This is going to be a addition to my video today. So, people are talking again about a situation involving, I'm not going to censor myself regardless. If I get kicked off for not censoring myself, that's just my answer that I don't need to be here anymore on this platform. Either way, moving forward, people have been talking about that Roblox situation. I'll admit, I am not all that informed. I've watched a few videos. I even skimmed through the videos from the person in question. I will say that I'm not going to take a very hardcore stance one way or the other, necessarily speaking. I am not informed enough about this current situation to do so outside of these small things, and I don't intend to get overly invested in the situation. Mainly because I've spent too much time as a fellow CSA. See, the thing is a lot of people that talk about this stuff also continue to go, I have been groomed. I am a CSA survivor. Well, so am I. And I have very different opinions. After going through my own journeys, living my own life. Now, let me say that I guess I don't really support how either side is handling the situation. And from my recollection of whatever video I was watching, the person in question who is under fire from the particular site is in his early 20s, also had been groomed when he was younger. Well, and that's valid. I mean, you can be upset. I have been when I was younger as well. Much more than I am these days. I've known, and I've been I used to enjoy watching pedophile hunter content because of being a CSA survivor and someone who has been emotionally abused and groomed in many different aspects. I used to really enjoy watching certain types of dramas, contents, and things like that. I've been through false accusations among many other things. And I even have known families of those who have unfortunately had a family member in those types of situations, not as the groomer or the one being groomed, but as the person who was doing the problem. I do not support the actions of those who choose to actually follow through with those types of things, because that is definitely not okay. it's not okay for not only the person that they might hurt, but for themselves. The thing that frustrates me, especially with this situation, with trying to be fully in support of the person who has been kicked off the site, and that's the issue that I have with certain YouTubers that I have watched, is they start to take this pro-vigilante, pedo hunter standpoint. I'm fairly certain that a lot of them are in their early 20s, mid-20s, and that explains things to a degree, because back then I was also super gung ho on that stuff. I'm in my early 30s now, and to me, anybody who is in their early 20s, even mid-20s, was pretty much just a child to me. I don't typically, and I also had bad opinions, bad takes when I was a child, no matter what aspect, and even now I still have bad choices to say. But what we don't like to do when it comes to these situations is take a step back and realize, especially since the person in question doing these type of quote-unquote investigations or exposés, whatever, catching rumors, the issue that I have with those who have been groomed taking on these types of positions is about the same that most people would have in a normal police investigation, to have someone who's too tied to specific things and would have their emotions mess with their better judgment. I think that they shouldn't be involved in that stuff. I wouldn't want myself to be involved in things with topics that I am overly passionate and heated about, because I will not make the best choices for anyone. And I've seen plenty of people who were trying to be active hunters, do very bad harm to not just the person that they were trying to pursue, but even those they were trying to help, which is also why I don't. And it's like, well, then, but if nobody's helping, then how are we supposed to? I don't have the answers. I do not have the answers. And most people don't, which is why we have these things happen. We live in a very flawed system that, in most cases, we don't really have the answers. Despite being 30, in my early 30s, I am still a child in an adult's body. And we all are in our own sense, but we refuse to accept that. We're told that we have to act, we're told we have to do things. And that's not a justification for other things, because the younger you are, the harder it is to be mature or to have proper thinking. And your brain isn't developed fully until you're around 25. And even then, you're still a dumbass in many cases. And historically, I even want to know this stuff. I do lots of research. My main research revolves around things that make me afraid, which is also probably why I started being super into the pedo hunter type of stuff. And I've seen plenty of issues. But the person, as I said, I think they are in the early 20s. I think they should be involved in it anyway. I don't think that how they're being handled is appropriate either. But something that I want to bring up, as someone who's dealt with this stuff personally and has continued to do study about these types of things. I've been studied in many different areas, considering I have my own mental health issues. But what we fail to realize, and what we fail to want to do, is to remember that those who are having issues with pedophilic thoughts, at the end of the day, are still human. Just like I have the controversial opinion that those who commit mass atrocities are still human. You can go, but they're monsters. No, they're still a part of your general race, unfortunately speaking. You're human, they're human, and we all are fundamentally flawed in overwhelming areas. When you're intelligent, you realize that you don't know anything at all. At least some people with intelligence realize that through knowing more, you know nothing. I know nothing. And yet I know a lot. That's not the point. We don't want to see them as human. And if you don't want to see them as human, acceptable, I'm sure plenty of people have dealt with their own. I mean, lots of CSA survivors will have trouble with that. Or those who have been groomed. But the issue arises as we also fail to care that in a lot of cases, those who struggle with pedophilic thoughts have families as well. And you go, well, they probably weren't really good parents if they're a child. That's not true. Unfortunately, those types of things are more complicated than you can imagine. Same with having those types of issues and thoughts. And to be honest, a lot of pedophiles, or those who have the misfortune of dealing with that type of mental problem, are they're mentally ill. So I also went on to see how this person handled the intervening and whatever. And from what I understood, it was like Chris Hansen style, which is something I don't really like, where you lure a individual into that sort of situation. And that's because with any mental illness, especially those types of things, it's basically, so this is not going to be a good comparison, but it's the one that comes to mind at the moment, which is, it's basically like somebody has a issue with cocaine, and you decide to try to run an operation to see if they will take the cocaine if you present the cocaine to them, even if they're trying to get away from the cocaine. And of course, they are on a site with predominant children. That is not okay. They need help. They need help, and the site's not helping. Nobody's helping. That's why people step up and try to stop it. I'm not aware of what is happening. But to catch them that way is also not the solution. And again, I can't offer actual solutions because in the current state of things, it's hard to come up with solutions of any kind. But I've been around the families of those who have been caught, and it is devastating for the families. So to randomly go around posting these images, and I get it, to protect the children, but I don't see it as any more of a protection as other people promise protection. And I got to watch the family members have to deal with and the person in question was a minor issue that involved themselves with actual people, which was thankful, and they, after the issue, started working on therapy, which I am happy about. But when you get to watch the families who are suffering from finding out this information have to deal with everything else and have to worry about, and it doesn't matter that their child has done something horrible. That that person is still their child. That is still their family. And you can judge them for that, but I don't think you should. And it is devastating to watch how the emotional output and just the issue that arises when a family member has to deal with finding out that level of information about someone that they love. So I don't think we should be parading these people around either. I don't think that it, and it, again, you can not care because they're people, they're pedophile. They should face consequences. And if they have done something, I think that there should be consequences, in a sense. However, again, I think we fail to care that there are family members who will suffer because you've decided to make a spectacle of that. Which is also why I don't approve. It hurts everyone. It doesn't just hurt the victims. It hurts everyone. And I think that people should be able to find ways to get treatment for the issues that they have. I have my own theories as to why certain things happen. And I've even been around people who struggle with their own mental illnesses to the point that in their early 20s or in certain aspects of their life, they are struggling with understanding how to communicate with those who are their own age at adulthood, considering that some people are mentally stunted or struggle to mature in the way that you would hope as they grow up. Which, unfortunately, even if someone isn't a person who has those type of thoughts of grooming or the more sexual aspect of things, there are those who end up thinking that they can only get along with children because the adults their age don't think like them. It's easier for them to get along with those who are younger. And I don't know, I had issue with that kind of stuff because I understood that that could be a messy thing. And I've had to try to help those I knew in those situations. I think there's a lot of mixed factors as to why that kind of stuff can arise. And when people decide to have these types of over-the-top reactions to these types of things, those who have these terrible thoughts or struggles won't want to get help. They won't want to go through therapy because they're afraid that someone will immediately demonize them for having these types of issues, having and I would prefer that they get help. I would prefer people to be able to eventually get past their traumas and learn to be able to find ways to heal, regardless of who you are, what you've done. If you have the capacity to want to heal, to want to try to help yourself, I think that should not be deprived of people just because you don't agree or don't understand. Not to mention, historically, there's a lot of issues that arise. Not that you can't. I don't agree with a lot of the things that happen. I don't agree with what they're doing. I don't agree with most people, how they handle things. But, you know what? see how it is. It still makes me sad because I don't know what to do. I don't know how to protect people. I don't know how to solve it. And I guess that's where everybody falls into. It's scary. We don't know how to help. We don't know how to prevent people from hurting how we were hurt. So we hurt others or forget to rationalize the fact that despite doing bad things, people are still human and have the ability to change. A lot of people will say it's an idealistic viewpoint, but I've studied a lot of psychology, and again, I'm still very flawed in my logic and other things. I don't know everything. I am the type of philosopher person who has similar views to, again, I haven't studied philosophy, I guess it just came natural. But anyway, I'll talk to you. I don't have any time left because, bye.